I started in, I had my first job in a radio station in 1945. I was still in college. And you said that you wanted to talk about game shows. In those days, they weren't called game shows at all. They were called audience participation shows, which indeed they were, because there were no pre-selected contestants and no practicing a game. It was just a host going out into an audience, choosing contestants, bringing them up and playing a game, or maybe just talking with them, just conversation. There was one very popular show called Breakfast in Hollywood. It was a radio show emceed by Tom Brenneman. He'd walk into a restaurant, he'd start talking with people at a table. If he was getting something amusing or funny, he'd stay there. Not, he'd go to the next table. It was as simple as that. The first time I ever heard a show called a game show was with Concentration. And Concentration was a game show. It was a board. And Hugh Downs was the first host. He'd say, "Who are you? Where are you from? What number do you want?" And they'd play a game.
You mentioned Hugh Downs. Did you have good friendships, associations with the hosts of the past? Bill Cullen may come to mind.
Bill Cullen and I met on a show called Tattletales. He and his wife, and Dorothy Jo, my wife, and I were on that a couple of times. It was the only time that I was ever really with him. I admired his work. As a matter of fact, when I was in college and got my first job in radio, on my shift, a new CBS show came on radio called Winner Take All. It was Mark Goodson, Bill Todman's first network production, and it was emceed by Bill Cullen, and it was his first national show. And with Goodson, Todman, and Bill Cullen, it was a hit. It was very smoothly done. I thought Cullen was very good.
Yeah. What about the evolution of the game shows from the 70s, let's say, till today? Because there's been a cycle, would you say? Game shows are now back in vogue.
Well, game shows are back in vogue, but they're not the game shows that I did. They're reality shows, or I don't know how you would describe them. But the only shows that are still on the air that are the genre that I really did, a show like Jeopardy. Now, Jeopardy in the old days would have been called a quiz show, but a Jeopardy is a game show that is very successful, and Alex Trebek is tremendous on that show. He was perfectly cast for that show. And then, of course, Wheel of Fortune and Price is Right. Those are the three real game shows, I think.
Yeah. And what do you see for the future now of the way the TV industry is going?
Well, the way the TV industry is going now is such that I could never predict it, and I don't think anyone else. Where will it go? This reality thing, they can go in all directions, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. Any fond memories of Mark Goodson as a tribute?
If I had to tell you one word about Mark Goodson, it'd be brilliant. He was a brilliant man, and I had the joy of doing shows for Mark Goodson and Ralph Edwards. And there was a time when they practically programmed all of daytime television. They were geniuses. Ralph Edwards was a producer, he was a writer, he was a wonderful salesman, and he was a top-notch host. He had it all.
That's lovely. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us.
My pleasure, Scott.